What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Meat on the 50, and you know what it is. It is our review edition, and we got some action to break down, and we're gonna get into it, and we're gonna get into it right now. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to our review edition of Meat on the 50. And of course, we are reviewing the week that was, right? We're reviewing the NFL week number 3, and helping me break it down, one of my best friends, Brandon Sullivan. Brandon, long time no see. How was the flight back? How you doing? Some highlights from your trip?
No, I had a great time. Thank you for the hospitality, Jake, and hosting me in my first trip to Denver, Colorado. It was awesome. It was cool to see, all the different cities in the outside as far as Colorado Springs, and you have a really beautiful apartment. It's super decked out with all your sports teams and sports memorabilia, so I thought that was really cool. Thank you so much for showing me around. It was so cool to see, right outside of Rocky Stadium. To see, Mile High for the first time, and to just go to that sports bar that we went to that kind of had all the different transplants from all these different areas coming together collectively, and just watching all their teams from you got people from Detroit, you got people from Chicago, you have people from Kansas City, you have people from Tennessee. You just see everybody that's rooting for these different teams, everybody to come together. It was a beautiful thing. Another thing, beautiful food, or amazing food, beautiful scenery, and beautiful scenery. The city was just awesome, and then the food was just phenomenal. Definitely the best city I've visited as far as food wise yet. So thanks again for everything.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, it was a great weekend. The weather was amazing. The sports bar, like you said, was amazing. So we definitely had a great weekend, and we basically explored all over. I was exhausted every single day once we got back, right? So it was a very interesting weekend. Let's put that out there as well. It was a very interesting weekend, but while we were out exploring, there were some games that were happening, and but first, also, you just remember. I want everybody to remember you can now follow along. You can now follow along with our episodes because, Brandon, why can they follow along with our episodes?
Well, we have a podcast now.
You're damn right. We got a damn podcast out, right? And that drops alongside our videos now. So we got a podcast out to make listening even easier, right? Brandon and I, we care about you, right? We realize you have things to do, lives to live. So go live them. But while you're out living those lives, right? Open up Spotify, open up Apple Music, and just flip on the Fantasy Time podcast, because we're going to be bringing you action every single week of the season. So you might as well follow along so you never miss a beat. But I have some somber news that we have to get into. We got to put up how we did last week on the screen. All right. We'll talk about this, okay? Well, no excuses. We'll talk about this. But for yourself, last week, 6-10, 1-0 though on the guaranteed victory. Eagles dominating, absolutely dominating. And for myself, 6-10, 1-0 on the guaranteed victory. Not a good week for us, but it's not what we anticipated, obviously, but I chalk it up to just like some of these teams, right, who didn't get, or these players, I should say, who didn't get a lot of practice during the preseason. We didn't get a preseason, right? So we're just warming up. We may take a few weeks, but we're coming back, right? So how are you feeling heading into week 4?
Just a lot of mixed emotions. Not trying to get too high, not trying to get too low each week, just because it's so early. I think after my game, you kind of talked me off the ledge a little bit. Obviously, those emotions are tough when you're at the game as opposed to you just watching, you just turn it off. But obviously, we're going to get into that. But just trying to hope, that my picks are a little bit better next week. just because, honestly, that's like one of the worst weeks I've ever had. But there's just so many unexpected games that happen. So it's like, you know what? Who knows what's going to happen next week? That's why I can't really, I don't even know where to go.
It's all right. We're going to bounce back. So overall for the season, that puts us at, for yourself, 22, 25, and 1. 2-1 on the guaranteed victories. We're going to have a bounce back week. I'm not really worried. For myself, 20, 27, and 1. Starting off pitiful, but like I said, we're going to bounce back. Guaranteed victories, 2-0-1. Thanks, Colts, for my tie. But that's all right. 2-0-1 on the guaranteed victories. Looking to just turn it around. Turn it around in week number 4. But before we can get to week number 4, that's not even this episode. That's a completely different episode, completely different day. So you're going to have to stay tuned for that. We're going to get into last week. And we're going to get into what just took place. What we just saw, right? And it was okay. So let's wipe that off the screen. Let's get those stinky records off the screen, right? Well, let's talk about what just happened. Now, a snoozer turned into a little bit of a game. Give me your thoughts on the Giants Cowboys.
I didn't catch much of it. I didn't really watch much. I saw a little bit of it at the end. I really just wasn't paying attention. Honestly, I could care less about the result of that game. Obviously, I think I wanted the Giants to win because, that was my pick. But it just seems like Dallas is they're pretty they're decent. I think that it's a divisional game, so I think that when it comes to a divisional game, anything can happen. Honestly, I think the Giants are a little bit of a better team because I don't think Cooper Rush is as good as Dak Prescott. What can you say? It was, like you said, it was kind of a snoozer. I watched bits and pieces of it, but I didn't find it intriguing. So Dallas, I was surprised to see them on the road. I don't know how that happened. They're supposed to play all 17 games at home, so I saw that and I said, I must be like in a different universe.
It must have been a mix-up. Yeah, the Cowboys, Cooper Rush hanging in there, hanging tough. Definitely coming through for the Cowboys. Had a decent game. Wasn't amazing, wasn't outstanding by any regards, but just a kind of a complete kind of game manager where he's not really going to lose you the game, but he's not really going to win you the game,
right.
But he did have some good drives, some good clutch plays in the second half. First half was like punt fest. It was punt city. It was just punt after punt after punt. Second half, we got a little bit of action. Both teams kind of woke up. Now, the offenses were moving the ball the entire game. The defenses kind of played pretty solid on both sides. So, the NFC East, we'll see. Obviously, the Washington Dumpster Fire Commanders, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up with these other three teams because these other three teams look like they're actually pretty decent. Saquon Barkley, he looks back. He looks like he's actually ready to have, a solid season if he can stay healthy. Daniel Jones, efficient. So the Giants look good. Dallas looks good. That division looks good. So we will see what happens in the NFC East. But again, obviously the Eagles rule that division, and we'll talk about that. But I can't really knock the Cowboys or the Giants. It may not have been an exciting game, but both teams definitely look solid. So good for them, and we'll see what happens in week 4. So I'm kind of excited to see what happens with that division. Finally, it looks like the Cowboys may finally have some competition. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's exciting, and that's what we want. So that's good to see. Let's go all the way back to Thursday, and let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Cleveland the Cleveland Browns. Some thoughts on that game? It was some back and forth, but what are your thoughts?
Not many thoughts. I didn't even watch it, so I didn't watch it. I think I went to the gym. I had some things I had to do. I was getting ready to pack to actually come to Denver, so I chose that over watching this game. Just not interested in this game personally. I had nothing invested into this game. I thought Pittsburgh was going to win. I think I caught like the tail end of it. So I did watch some of it technically, but I didn't see what happened. I think it was just the run game. I saw the highlights. I think the run game was solid. Nick Chubb's a really good, I think having two good backs is kind of what is allowing them to, what allowed them to beat Pittsburgh and what's allowing them to kind of stay, relevant. Because Jacoby Brissett's okay, he's serviceable backup, but my thing is that run game and that defense is what allowed them to win that game.
Yeah, the Steelers and Browns. Now, I always say this: Jacoby Brissett definitely looks like a viable backup. You got some backups keeping these teams in these games. He had a solid game, able to lead them down the field. Amari Cooper, definitely the number one receiver there in Cleveland, basically staking his flag in that offense. And then Nick Chubb, easily one of the top 3 or 4 backs in the league, super efficient, gets the job done. And then you have Kareem Hunt. Perfect 1-2 punch for the Steelers. It's basically Kenny Pickett time any moment, any week, any second. So we're just waiting on it. It's bound to happen. Mitchell Trubisky, not going to take you anywhere. Mason Rudolph, most likely not going to take you anywhere. Might as well just give the rookie a chance. And we'll see what happens. I mean, you know what? Kenny Pickett, we'll see. Obviously the Steelers have some decent pieces. That defense, is keeping them obviously in a lot of games. A lot of defense are keeping teams in a lot of games this year, this early on, while the offenses kind of get revved up. That's kind of been the trend I've kind of noticed is defenses have been more on point, on key, on ready to go, more than the offenses. Offensive have been kind of slow, flat, not really there. We have seen high-scoring offenses, but on the most part, we've seen some kind of low-scoring games, some flat offenses, field goals. So I'm looking for the offense to get going. Cleveland, obviously their running game is basically what you need to stop, so we'll see what happens there. Pittsburgh, we'll see what happens with their quarterback situation heading into week 4. Could be Mitchell Trubisky's last start. It could very well be Mitchell Trubisky's last start, so we're definitely going to see that. But yeah, I mean, the game was back and forth, good divisional battle. Browns obviously coming out on top, Cleveland handling business, but yeah, we'll see what happens heading into week 4. Cleveland might be a team to watch, even with Jacoby Brissett, who obviously, I'm not going to hate on Jacoby, he didn't do anything wrong, so he's doing what he needs to do.
Cleveland. I'm not paying attention.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, serviceable backup, and hopefully this presentation gets him out of Cleveland, right? Let's get Jacoby Brissett out of Cleveland and onto a place where he can actually, enjoy being and not on one of the worst franchises in history, all right? Moving on to Sunday morning. And we had some solid matchups on paper. How did you feel that the action turned out in person?
You're saying at the bar?
What we saw. What we saw from the morning games.
Yeah,
what we saw from the morning games.
With all those NFL fans at the bar.
With the TVs everywhere, it was.
Your head just jolts up. You're trying to figure out where the cheers are going from. Oh wait, it's the Browns game or the Bears game. There's so many Bears fans in Denver.
There was tons of Bears fans.
There was a lot of Bears fans. Jake's pointed that out, and I totally agree. We saw a lot of Bears fans cheering all around. Give me 1 second. I saw regular scheduled programming. The Bears, there was a lot of Bears fans. There was all kinds of different teams there. You saw Titans jerseys, Jets jerseys. It was nice to see Chiefs fans soak in their tears on the way out. They did not for even a second after that.
Colts, baby.
They were right there cheering in front of us, and they thought they had it in the bag. They're not even paying attention to the game. They're chitter-chattering, and then they're drinking, and then all of a sudden the game gets close, and everybody tightens up, and there's a lot of tension. And then, so it was incredible to see all of it. That Chiefs-Colts game, though, was like on every single TV. It was the sound production.
That's what it felt like.
It was like everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that game was crazy to watch. Probably my biggest surprise was that game. I was very surprised that the Colts were able to, win that game at the end. It was a hell of a defensive performance by that Colts team, even though they didn't have the best linebacker, Darius Leonard. So I thought that was a hell of a performance. Ravens game, Mac Jones gets hurt. That one was another one that they had outside that they were broadcasting. A lot of Patriots fans there. But unfortunately for the Patriots, Lamar Jackson went off and had a day. They look really, really solid. They look kind of scary, actually. I mean, to be able to produce all those points, if their defense can just tighten up a little bit. I think the Ravens. So those were the two games that I saw that were I feel like most people were watching was those two games, and then obviously the Bears game. But I didn't pay attention to that at all. What was your thought on that bar? I thought the ambiance was awesome.
Yeah, the sports bar was awesome, right? Then they had the Dolphins game on, right? Are the Dolphins the real deal? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit too early to say that they're the real deal, just because anything can change after a few weeks. But I think that for what we've seen so far, they've definitely been very surprising. We thought that they'd be better. Adding an offensive mind like Mike McDaniel. I mean, he played really well. Yeah. He was really well. He did really well for the 49ers. And also Tyreek Hill is a weapon that any team would love to have.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And there's two different worlds between the Dolphins and the Chiefs, because the Chiefs lost Tyreek, and now you got the Dolphins who look, really good. I mean, to be able to knock off who's my pick to go to the Super Bowl, the Bills. Yeah. Or a lot of people's pick. And I still think they could. I still think they might. The Dolphins, did something that a lot of people didn't think they'd do. So, and I think the addition of Tyreek Hill, it's just that threat of just having him on the field, and then the Chiefs not having him. I think it makes a really big difference. So kudos to the Dolphins, and I'm actually happy for them. They struggled for a long time. They went through the Ryan Tannehill years. Yep. They went through some really, really crappy seasons, and it looks like Tua's actually playing really well. And it looks like that offense is clicking. We already know they had a good defense, but that offense appears to be clicking.
Yeah, I think you brought up a very good point, right? Patrick Mahomes, right, had 24 seconds left on the clock to make something happen. Well, who wasn't there? His number one weapon, who actually makes stuff happen for him, right, which is Tyreek Hill. They couldn't get it done. They were able to march down the field, get a field goal with 13 seconds last year. You're telling me 24 seconds, too much time for you? You know what I mean? Too little time for you? So I think, like you said, Tyreek Hill being gone, very, very interesting thing that we're going to have to watch for the Chiefs, and how many games this could potentially cost them. Because like you said, right, Tyreek Hill not there, that is a big hole for the Chiefs. Who's going to step up and fill that? We did not see it in the Colts. So I think, like you said, that is a glaring hole that we're going to have to watch. The Dolphins, I like it. Yeah, I think it is a little bit too early to say that the real deal. It's good that they're starting off, 3-0. It's good for the Dolphins. Like you said, right? That offense is coming together. Tua looked really good, so that's good to see. Another team that we got to talk about is the Eagles. Jalen Hurts looking like one of the most improved players this season, right? He looks this offseason, the work that he put in, you can definitely tell as a passer, the awareness, everything. Jalen Hurts looks great. So the Eagles absolutely dominating the Washington Dumpster Fire Commanders. Now, not really a shocker to some. I mean, a lot of us kind of knew that was going to happen, kind of expected that to happen. But give me your thoughts on the Eagles. Best team in the NFC right now?
I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet.
Okay.
I think that you've got teams that I think could beat them potentially. I think that if Tampa Bay had all of their starters, they have a shot at beating them. I think that the Rams definitely would have a shot at beating them. I think that there's a couple of teams out there. So I throw them in the mix through 3 weeks. But I just, like I said, dating back to when the Titans, I think it was 2009 or 2010, had Kerry Collins. They went 9 or 10-0. And then they lost, 3 of their last 6 games or last 5 games. Yeah. And then they went to the playoffs and got bounced in the first round. There's a lot of teams, and that Steelers team that I think in like 2019 or 20, they were 9-0, 10-0. Then they just really just ended up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not ready to go there yet. I think that they're decent. I think that they played really well. I think their defense is definitely very stout. But I want to see them. I want to see them play. I mean, here's a test. Jacksonville next week. Let's see how that goes. So I think that there's teams that appear to be emerging, right?
Yeah,
but I
like
don't know
that.
if they're ready yet. So we're gonna have to see. Ask me in week 8, but as of right now, they're definitely one of the the better teams in the NFC.
So, you said something good, and the Eagles play the Jags next week. So speaking of the Jags, right? Speaking of the afternoon games, right? We saw potentially the Jags turn the corner. Give me some of your thoughts on the afternoon games.
Yeah, no, Jacksonville looked really, really good. I don't know if it's, if there was just the Chargers are a little bit deflated after their loss, and then, Herbert getting hurt. I mean,
Could be.
Energy can always shift, like you said, on the car ride home from downtown Denver to right around Castle Rock when we were on the way to Colorado Springs. You mentioned you said anybody can have a bad week, and it's so true. So you got to do it consistently, because there are some teams, like I'm not ready to crown the Jaguars, the Jaguars like the best team, because they blew out the Chargers, and Chargers are a Super Bowl contender, because I want to see them do it multiple times, because any team can come out and lay an egg and you look amazing. But if you have a repeat of performance, that's not a fluke. But the Jaguars, they definitely were not picked in this game by 20, especially not by 28. To be able to win that game 28-10, give them credit. I think we potentially might have something with Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. So we knew he would come around. We knew it at some point. We knew that he was going to be dominant at some point. He was just too great of a quarterback at Clemson. He's a champion. We knew ever since you and I have talked about it, ever since he won that championship game against Alabama, we knew this dude was going to be dominant in the NFL and was going to be the first pick. So we were right about him being the first pick, and we are also right about him, turning into a transcendent talent.
I think, he's on the cusp. And, you said it in the car. Like, how crazy would it be if we saw an Eagles-Jags Super Bowl, right? And Doug Peterson going against his old team. So, I think anything can happen, right? Yeah. And you brought it up, right? Any given Sunday, anybody can win, right? So, good for the Jags. Jags had a great performance, looked like a complete team. Definitely are better coached. I mean, I think that's the most key thing that we're seeing, because they're actually scoring points. If we go back last year Jags scoring to this year's Jags scoring, their point differential is probably plus 50, plus 60, plus 70, a lot, because they were not scoring points last year. Right. This year, they're scoring points all 3 weeks, consistent. They may not be winning, but they are consistently scoring points. And look what happened. They absolutely destroyed the Chargers last week, right? I mean, the other afternoon games, Falcons defeated the Seahawks. Kudos to Atlanta. They did it, right? Good for them, right? We had the Cardinals drop a game to the Rams after that thriller in Las Vegas, right? The Rams could be back, right? Do you think the Rams are revving up, or do you think this is just kind of like typical Rams-Cardinal behavior?
No, I think the Rams are revving up. I think that, you come out, start out a little bit slow. You won the championship. Your motivation isn't there. You get kicked in the teeth by the Bills. You're kind of sleepwalking a little bit. You barely won last week, Then now you're starting to build that steam. You went and you beat a divisional opponent on the road. That's always difficult to do. And I do feel as though they're going to start to come to life, because they are champions. They won the Super Bowl, which is something that in our lifetimes, your team and my team has been unable to do. So when you win a championship, you have championship DNA. No one can ever take that from you.
True.
That team is stacked. So I think, yes, they are coming to life. I got to give, as much as it hurts me to say it, because I can't stand the Rams, I do think that slowly but surely they're sleepwalking kind of back into, just kind of like, and then boom, they're going to hit their stride. Yeah.
All right. And then the thriller, well, what was supposed to be the thriller of the afternoon, but turned into a low-scoring thriller of the afternoon. We had the Packers defeating the Bucs because the Bucs could not convert a 2-point conversion. Now, my question, there's not much to break down from this game, right? My question for you is this. Do you think the Packers can do this again in the playoffs?
No. The reason being is you take Julio Jones, Mike Evans, and you also take away Chris Godwin. If you give me one of those, you win that game.
Okay.
Yeah, you give me one, you give me two, you definitely win that game because you almost tied it 14-14. The problem was your defense played great. Your defense played great. When you look at a score and it's 14-12, both defenses played well. Yeah. There's a reason Green Bay's defense played great, though. It's because Tom Brady didn't have his center, and he was missing either a guard or a tackle, and he was missing Julio, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. All three of those players. Man cannot do it by himself, especially against Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, his key weapon was Russell Gage. So, a solid piece, not a number one receiver. So, we'll see what happens once all of them come back. I kind of agree. I don't think that Aaron can repeat this again, but who knows? We'll see what happens. Like you said, 14-12, defenses showed up and played great. So, good defensive game. That's probably what it's going to take. The Bucs top either 1, 2, or 3 defenses in the NFL right now. So we'll see what happens. That game was, it was interesting. It wasn't too exciting. Obviously, Tom made it exciting at the end with getting that touchdown. But we'll see if the Packers can repeat. We'll see if the Packers can use this performance. Obviously, it looks like Aaron is going to make do with what he's got, and it looks like he's going to figure out ways to win. So whether or not he can carry this on into the playoffs, we'll see what happens. But I'm with you. I don't think that Aaron can kind of repeat this again if they do end up meeting for one last time in the playoffs. Moving on to our night game, but first we had, of course, I'm not going to not talk about my team. I know they played in the morning, but they deserve a little bit more time, okay? We had the Bengals absolutely thrash the New York Jets, and boy, did it feel good, okay? I like this Jets team. They got some talent on there, but man, did I need this win in the worst way. So before we talk about the night game, because I know you're just dying to talk about the exciting action we saw.
Talk about it. Go ahead.
What do you think that this is the turning point for the Bengals, or were they just handling business?
Turning point, not necessarily. I mean, I would have been disappointed, embarrassed if they would have lost to the Jets. I mean, 0-3, Joe Flacco, they handled their business. They had to win the game. Give them credit. It was a must win. I'm not ready to say that after one because the first 2 games, abysmal. That game is how they're supposed to play. Can there be a repeat performance? Sure, but I need to see it. Can't say anything after one win. I just can't. I've known in the NFL, like I said, after one win from now on, it's got to be 2 or more. It's got to be 2 or more. Can you do it consistently? Because if you do something 2 or more times, that is consistency. So,
I like it.
But they played well. Give them credit. Everybody looked pretty. The line blocked well, and the receivers were playing well. Joey played well. Defense played well. All around A's to everybody on the Bengals.
Yeah, I think, you said it right? And most importantly, the line played well, right? Joey had actual time to survey the field, get the ball downfield, and then when the pocket kind of collapsed, he had more time to elude and get out of the pocket. So, it was a good performance overall. It was, I think you're right. It was a performance that the Bengals had to have. If the Bengals want to do any sort of competing this year, they have to win these games. You can't go 0-3, and then expect to have the Dolphins, it could be a trap game. This could very well be a trap game on Thursday for the Miami Dolphins, coming off that emotional game against the Buffalo Bills. So we'll see what happens there, but I definitely agree. Bengals had to have it. They did do it. Defense played great. There were some kind of moments there, but overall, the Bengals basically were in control of the game the entire time, handled business, some late scores for the Jets. But yeah, proud of the team, proud of them. On the road, get the win. That's what you got to do. So good for the Bengals. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for Joey to actually get the first win with his new line, with those guys out there. And you could tell he was pumped up. There were moments throughout the game where he had plenty of time to do what he wanted to do. He got the ball, he delivered it, pass completed to Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, who I think eventually went out with a concussion. Jamar Chase finally got going, but he was fired up at the line for finally giving him time. So whatever happened this week, this offseason, or this past week, I should say, I like it with the line. So maybe they finally gelled. I'm happy for them. But the Bengals got a tough test on Thursday, and I don't know. I'm obviously riding with my guys, but it's going to be a tough one. Going to be a tough one, that's for sure. Now, let's get into it. Give me your thoughts on the performance we saw at Mile High Stadium.
To obviously, going into the stadium, it's a decent stadium. It was cool to check that one off my list. I thought the Broncos fans were really I think they were pretty nice for the most part. Everyone was willing to take pictures for us, and the two ladies next to me were super nice. There were a couple people behind me that were super nice. For the most part, everyone was pretty nice, except for your little run-in. But we shut that down. We were in there like swimwear. We didn't allow that to happen. As far as the performance, it was just an all defensive game. I mean, I think I saw some of the best punting of my entire life. What that game was, it was probably in my entire life, I've never seen better punting. I think that's my takeaway, is if that's the punting game. I think the Broncos punted the ball 10 times and the Niners punted the ball 7, almost combined for 20 times. And they were all great punts from both punters. It was a showdown of punting. And so when I say that it was a showdown of punting, I mean, it's not a fun game to watch. 11-10, what is this? The Los Angeles Dodgers versus the St. Louis Cardinals, 11-10. It's only happened one other time in NFL history. But as we were in your Jeep Cherokee, it was playing on the radio.
It's true.
11-10 on the way to the airport. It only happened one other time. And so my thing is great defense, very bad quarterbacking on both sides. And here's my thing. Russell Wilson has to turn the corner. He has to turn it around, because you're getting paid $250 million. You won a Super Bowl. You have gotten all this hype. Jimmy G, backup quarterback, shoulder surgery, wasn't there for training camp, missed a ton of games. I mean, here's my thing. I'm not making excuses for Jimmy G, because you're getting paid $6 million. You should be able to go out and win the game too. However, I am kind of giving you an explanation that there are some things behind it where it's I'm not giving Russ, as much of a pass as I am Jimmy, right?
I like it.
So my takeaway was horrible quarterbacking, but very good defense on both sides, and that was an all-time punting game.
Aside from the Broncos fans basically initially booing Russ to then acting like they won the Super Bowl, even the Broncos' own radio announcers commented on how the Broncos fans were booing and then acting like they won the Super Bowl. So, I guess this was the Broncos' Super Bowl, scoring 11 points. Kudos to them. But they suck. Nathaniel Hackett, dog shit. Russ, regressing, dog shit. I don't know. Obviously, early on in the season, like a lot of mistakes made by coaches, right? You don't have your starters playing in preseason. This is what happens. Your $250 million quarterback has scored a touchdown in 2 weeks. One passing touchdown. We don't count handoffs because you don't pay a $250 million quarterback to hand off the ball and score. You pay a $250 million quarterback to throw the goddamn ball down the field and score, which he is not doing. Less than 200 yards, I believe, in all 3 of his starts. Not acceptable. Unacceptable. And boy, was I letting the Broncos fans hear it. And boy, were they salty. Celebrating an 11-point win. You can have your 11-point win, Broncos. You can have your win. You can have your W. I will gladly see you guys on the couch watching the playoff games like most of the rest of us. So you can enjoy this little 11-10 victory. You're punting your quarterback. But I'm sorry. The Broncos suck. Defense, good for them, keeping them in. Whether or not they can hold this up, I don't know, because if the offense is not going to produce points, that defense is going to get tired. It's a long season. Offense doesn't produce, that defense is just going to run out of steam eventually. So we'll see what happens with the Broncos. Russ, I have a feeling, is going to linger all year like a cockroach, like he mostly does. So I expect a lot of low-scoring Bronco wins. If there are, if any, I expect the wins that the Broncos do get to be low-scoring. My question is, well, you kind of answered it, but I don't think we've seen the ceiling for the Niners. I think you're kind of right? I think we give Jimmy another week of preparation, right, to get fitted back into this offense. Didn't have a preseason, didn't have a training camp, was practicing on the side away from everybody because he was expecting to get traded. So we'll see what happens. Now Jimmy has been in this offense. It shouldn't be that different of an offense. So going into Los Angeles, right, on Monday night, it's going to be a great game. So is that a home game, or are we traveling?
We're in Santa Clara.
So it's a home game, right? So the Niners got the Rams at home. That's what you want coming off a just an ugly game. That's basically that's what we can chalk it up to. And I know Niners fans are upset and angry, but one thing that I cannot stress enough is everybody has bad games, right? Let's look at the Minnesota Vikings. They look like dog crap on Monday night against the Eagles. The Eagles embarrassed them. They come back and they beat the Detroit Lions. Now, it is Detroit, and we can't really give Detroit the respect that they will earn eventually, but they're a tough team. They're fighting. They are fighting in every single game. So I am not ready to count out the Niners. The Broncos, we'll see. They're going to have to win these ugly games, it looks like, until that offense gets going. Nathaniel Hackett giving up the play calls, it looks like it may have worked, right? Very little delay of game calls, very little late getting the plays in and everything like that, which seemed to be the issues in the first 2 weeks. That may help the Broncos. We'll see what happens. Russ has got to fix his own issues, like he said, right? Russ has got to turn that corner and be the Super Bowl winning quarterback that he was. Bro, you got paid $250 million, dude. Like, it's just not acceptable. This would be acceptable for a Drew Lock. Drew Lock last year, you won an 11-10 ugly game. Cool. Good for you. Kudos, bro. You're earning your contract. Russ, 11-10, handoff touchdown, unacceptable. I'm sorry. Less than 200 yards passing, unacceptable. I'm sorry. Gotta be better. Lastly, what team or what impressed you the most about week 3? Player, team, moment. What impressed you the most about week 3?
I mean, I'm just gonna give it to the Dolphins. I mean, I was super impressed that they advanced to 3-0, and they were able to knock off the Bills. The Bills are a juggernaut, and it impressed me because now I can kind of really start to look at the Dolphins and say, hey, they've won 3 straight games, and they just knocked off the Ravens and the Bills, so they might have something there. And so I thought that was really impressive that they beat Buffalo, because I thought Buffalo was going to rattle off a lot of wins before they took a loss. So from what I saw, they're blowing teams out. I mean, they destroyed Tennessee. They destroyed the Rams. They destroyed the Super Bowl champs. So
It's true.
I was most impressed by the Dolphins.
I like that. Yeah, I think two things impressed me, and one, Dolphins, right? Tough win because if you look at that game on paper, there is no way that you think the Dolphins won that game. There's just no way. If you look at the stats on paper, there is no way that the Dolphins won. But in person, in live action, that's exactly what the Dolphins did. They pulled it out and they won. So the Dolphins definitely impressive. I think the Jags are becoming impressive. That's what kind of impressed me. Them absolutely blowing out the Chargers. I thought it was going to be a good game. Obviously, I thought the Chargers are going to win. But the Jags, Trevor Lawrence getting James Robinson, whoever James Robinson, ACL, Achilles, freaking surgery guy is, get this man a new contract. Get this guy on every single surgery operating table for every single NFL player because James Robinson looks amazing. He looks amazing. So that's awesome. So the Jags, I think, are 1B is what impressed me. 1A, obviously Dolphins handling the Bills, and not even handling the Bills, 21-19. Like low scoring game, very low scoring game. And obviously we had the butt punt, great moment, right? We had the butt pump, which was a great moment to see, but the Dolphins taking on the Bengals. The Bengals are going to have some work to do, but this, I think, is a perfect opportunity to steal one at home against the Dolphins, and we will definitely get into that on our normal episode of Meat on the 50. But that is going to do it for this episode of Meat on the 50. And remember, you can follow along now. You can follow along now at any point during our videos now with our podcast that is on Spotify and Apple Music. So whichever platform you use, it is there for you. Both our review episodes and our normal Meat on the 50 episodes where we do our normal season predictions. Those are both on there for you. So be on the lookout for those. You know what I'm going to ask you? Brandon, any last words for the people?
Once again, thank you again for everything this weekend. It was good to go to Mile High and finally check it out. And check another stadium off the list. Hoping that my picks are better coming up for week 4. And, hoping that the 49ers can get a big win.
I'm rooting for the Niners. The Niners need a big win. The Raiders need a big win. The Bengals need a big win. All 3 teams need big wins, and we're going to break it all down for you on Meat on the 50. But as always, Brandon and I want to thank you, the viewer, right, for taking the time, for just watching us break everything down, right, even whether it be our breakdowns of the games that happen or whether it be the predictions of the games that haven't even taken place yet, and obviously those haven't gone to plan, but there plenty of time to turn around. We got 17 weeks, right? We got 14 weeks left, so we got plenty. We got 15 weeks left. There's 18 weeks now, so we got plenty of time to turn things around and get the train back on the track. So I'm not worried at all. I know Brandon's not worried at all. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time for watching our videos, whether you're a new viewer, old viewer. We hope that we've done enough to earn you to come back. And remember, check out the podcast. But until Meat on the 50. Come on, I can't end it first. As always, if you like what you see, please smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, just tap on that bell notification. That way, anytime new videos drop, you're right there to consume the content. You're right there because we're dropping content all season long. That is one of my best friends, Brandon Sullivan. I am your host, Jacob Cutler. And until Friday, Brandon and Jake are out.